Hey everyone, it's Time Spiraled. Looks like League is popping off today. We're back watching some more MSEM League here in September. We've got Purple. We're going to get a chance to look at what's in Purple's hand here, but like a few mulligans, not necessarily great. Down over here, Ducky's back on Black-Red Sinful Tempter, so cards that we've seen in the last video if you had a chance to check that out. There's a few new cards that we didn't see in their hand last time. Enter Mephisto's Gate as just a pretty solid main board like removal. Let's check out what Purple Murasaki's piloting here. We've got Mirror Gate, kind of a good catch-all answer to a lot of lands in the format. Gorgeous Plains from End of Wallensea, so designed by Purple. We got Chronicles of the Kitsune, one of our best galleries. In fact, I think the current best gallery. It's the one that sees the most play. Makes a 2/1 red and white fox when it enters, and then you can either pick one of the two other upgrades, so either Ascent or Descent, depending on whether you want a bigger body or a board-wide buff, essentially. Also got Helena the Awakener here. A lot of text on these walkers. I'll let you pause and give it a read if you want to. It makes a lot of tokens. Xifang Hu, really solid, 2/2 for 2. When it enters, non-creature spells cost 2 more to cast until your next turn, and then it slowly upgrades into a demigod and a god, getting bigger and bigger as it goes. And also Miss Margaret Barton here. We're going to check out the backside here, can transform into Dr. Gareth Barton. So he's a fantastic card. So a lot of little hate bears, some good bodies. So we're going to see what's happening over on this side. We have Reckless Mutationist being played, same as the previous one. There's no Sinful Tempter in hand right now. So the red and white fox, I believe this was in a block, perhaps. Let's see. Yeah, okay. And then Bog Rebirth being played on Reckless Mutationist, using the token mode of Germinate to get back a 1/1 and having Reckless Mutationist back on the battlefield. So 2 modes on it. The one that's being used the most is just tap, target creature gains haste. Pretty important to use with Sinful Tempter. Just going to go search that up so you all can see what I'm talking about here. Let's make that just a little bigger for all of you. So you play it for fleeting black-red, you give it haste, it attacks, you get this effect twice, and it also attacks as a 5/4. Really solid body there. Passing back over to Purple, we're on turn 2. We're going to play a tapped Mirror Gate, and it's going to name Corpse Bed White. So that means that if ever Corpse Bed, which is a land in the format, gets played, it would be able to tap for white, and in this case, your opponent also gets to pick a color, so they'll pick red. So Corpse Beds are just now red-white tap lands. Drew into an Event Horizon, just a premium piece of white removal here, able to get rid of pretty much anything. It hits non-land permanents as long as their mana value is less than or equal to the greatest number of non-land permanents controlled by a single player, which is 2, which is fine in decks like these. So, hey, speaking of Sinful Tempter, I guess I wouldn't even have had to search it up. Here it is, just drawn into the hand here. I'm assuming that's what we're going to do here, is we're just going to run out Sinful Tempter for fleeting. Yep. It doesn't have the second mana to use an Event Horizon or anything here, so Reckless Mutationist will give haste to Sinful Tempter. That's going to swing in for 5 and then Torment twice. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see the sacrifice of the Chronicles, and then going to take 3 and then take another 5 and a 6. So huge chunks of damage here coming in. Not enough mana. Oh, anyway, Bog Rebirth was already used, so that's not going to be an option here. End of the turn, Sinful Tempter is going to hit the bin. Yep. I guess next turn we're just going to keep putting on the pressure. Opportunistic Raiders, pretty neat here as well. It's nice to see that Reckless Mutation has found a home. I wasn't sure if the card was going to see a lot of play. Eventually, when I do a Toll Midnight video, we're going to talk about some of the cards that I know people have been discussing. This one was higher up-ish on the list, but it's nice to see that it found a home so quickly. Shock Fetch land coming into play tapped, and issue here, Purple really had to mulligan down to really low and is not drawing a third land, but Event Horizon is going to come out and just say, hey, we're going to deal with that Mutationist. I don't really want to have to deal with that right now. On the draw, we're finding Nebula of Empty Gold. Good way of fixing your lands, but we're going to go in for the swing here just to chip in for a damage. Then on the second main, Opportunistic Raiders is going to come in for its bleed cost, And when it enters, if it's your main phase, you get an additional combat phase. So able to swing in as a 3/3 haste after the fact. It's just 3. It does not untap your other creatures. That would be really, really, really good. But it's the kind of cool card where if you manage to get a damage in, and then you can, 2, you get another one in, and it sticks around. So pretty cool. Playing out the Nebula for black-red is probably what this deck wants, right? Still not drawing the third land. Kind of rough. A lot of removal, a lot of things here, but it's going to be hard to sequence them, especially now that we're getting down to 2. I'm assuming we're going to see maybe like Zifang here. What is it? 1/1s and a 3/3s. Chronicles does put another body and gives you something to sacrifice if ever the Sinful Tempter comes back around. Non-creature spells, I mean, right now it's just the creatures, and maybe you just want a better body for that one turn. Really hoping to get up to Helena. Let's see. Okay, so it is Xifeng. That's what I figured. The fact that also you can turn it into a 3/3 next turn with just the 2 mana is not irrelevant. So, decent enough card here. All right, I'm just gonna try something a little bit. Move my fan just a little bit out of the way. It is a hot day today, so I'm gonna hope that the fan pointed away from the microphone isn't too loud, but it is going to cool me down just a little bit. Forked Pillar here, costing 3, but still 2 damage, 2 damage. That's pretty much all you need. Gonna swing for 4. Purple's down to 1. It's a bit of a clock. And, okay, drew that third land, I mean. Is it gonna be enough? Barton comes out. And then you can also sequence a Chronicles into play, so you also get the 2/1. Alright. Some bodies here. Of course, there's, Mephisto's Gate, which is all you need here. Getting rid of one of the bodies means that when you attack with the 2 others, 1 damage is getting through. Gonna crack the Rift. Finding Lava-Torn Fields. Fetchable checklands are fantastic. I really like these cards. And paying 3 for Mephisto's Gate to get rid of Miss Margaret Barton, and that's enough for game 1. So we had a chance to see Ducky's Black-Red list last time. We know there were cards like Anapraxia's Endeavor, so we might see this come back out. I mean, stuff like -2/-2, remove all counters from it, can work against things like Zifeng Hu. But I don't even know if this is sideboard or maybe it is main board and just we haven't seen. But we'll have to check. No clue what's in purple's sideboard though. I guess we're gonna have to see. It's the fun part about leagues is you don't really get a chance to see what your opponent's piloting. It's kind of like a wild card format, so to speak. A lot of stuff that you can try out. It's really kind of like an open format. It's just nice to have a way to practice before Grand Prix in sort of open field and see all these different little decks. Like we've already seen quite a few things. If you go over on the deck list channel on MSEM, you'll see that I think there's already 3 decks, two decks that have already made 5-0 or a 5-0 and a 4-1 win. So we had a black-green Splinter Entanglement deck by Ricky and a 5-0 by Post Cannon Girls, which I believe was what, Plains Island, kind of like a white-blue polymorph, which is really cool. It's a bunch of tokens and then a Zare Heart transformed from End of Volancy, which is absolutely nuts. Okay, missed a little bit. I apologize for that. We are back here. We had a turn 1 Chronicles of the Kitsune. Turn 1 deck is just going to use Forked Pillar to deal 2 damage to face and get rid of that. In the hand, a lot of lands and a Reckless Mutationist. Not much else, but over on the other side, we have our second land. Zifang, we have an out-of-body experience, Promise Exaltation, and some Subdue False Idols, which is exile removal that then has Coalesce. If ever you get to 9, not sure that deck's going to be doing anything like that, but yeah. So Reckless Mutation is coming out on 2, Sinful Tempter being drawn. It feels like these 2 cards have been like glued to each other, and we're drawing them in a pretty solid sequence, even without any way of tutoring, so that's something interesting. It means next turn this thing's going to be coming out. Purple not seeing a third land again on turn 3. We've got Venerated Sanctity here, also from End of Sea. I'm not surprised to see Purple trying out some of their cards. I mean, I would be doing the same thing if I wasn't, busy recording and making content and getting ready for work. Let's give it a little check here. Promised Exaltation is a 5/5 flyer for 5. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, you get to pick one. You can exile a creature with power less than that creature's power. You either put 2 counters on it, or give it first strike, lifelink, and untap it. So a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it is a 5 that can attack as a 7 flyer if you attack with it alone. And the turn it enters, if you have another creature, you can already get it triggered. So that was Xifang coming in. We're going to swing in for 2. Go to the second main. We're going to play out Venerated Sanctity. So Sanctity is a 1/2 flyer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you put a Faith counter on it, and then you can pay X white and sack it. When you do, you can exile a non-land permanent with mana value less than or equal to X plus the number of Faith counters. So the Faith is just like a little floating mana just for that little ability. So a lot of little ways of hitting lots of different things, right? And out of body can hit any creature, and that plains being opened is going to be really important, because if Sinful Tempter is coming out this turn, the fact that you exile it is not irrelevant here. So I think you wait till Reckless gives it the haste, and then in response, then you say, nope, go away. And yeah, Duck is like, all right, I'm not coming back from that. My hand was full of lands, and I'm about to start getting slammed. Maybe a little early, but at the same time, your opponent only had low mana, but you're so far behind, and the fact that it was exiled means you're not getting it back easily. Both players keeping here. We finally see 3 lands in an opening hand for purple. All right. Sanctity, Chronicles, Helena, and Out of Body. That's not a decent start, Some good bodies, and then Helena can do a lot out of body. So here's the Polyp Pools. I was wondering if that was going to be in the deck because of the Coalesce that cares about horrors. I'm going to lead with Sanctity. Over on this side, we have Canaan War Driver. And in the previous video, I talked about how it was sort of a second version of Reckless Mutationist. So we're going to go black-red. We're going to Sinful Tempter. We're going to give it haste. And we're going to just crack in with it. So that's going to be 5 damage, and then double Torment. So you have to discard a card or sack a non-land permanent, or you lose 3 life. Purple saying, all right, that's cool. I'll just take a huge ton of damage. I'm fine with that. Got ways of getting life in the deck, and feels that if you can control this sort of like early stuff, you can do all right. So Sanctity attacks, dealt the combat damage, and then paying the white to exile Canaan. So the fact that it's exile is quite nice. It's hard to use Sanctity to get rid of things like Sinful Tempter, just because the mana value of it is 5 and not 2 technically. But really good against cards like Canaan. So Chronicles of the Kitsune here. We're going to have the little fox. Shrine coming out. I'm assuming we're going to see a swamp for perhaps a Profane Emissary. It's a 2/2. Don't control a horror at the don't control a demon, at the moment. But if you would draw a card, you can search your library for a demon, reveal it, put it into your hand. Using the spare red to cast out Metal Munch. Can deal 1 damage to each of up to 2 targets or destroy an artifact. It's a very common sideboard card in red-based decks. Helena coming out here. So it creates a 1/1 red cleric, but if you control 3 or more clerics, you can create Aspect of Faradia, a legendary 5/5 angel. But the interesting one here is the -1. So it exiles a creature if you control an angel, and you do, because, Polyp Pools is an angel. Otherwise, the creatures just can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So by virtue of having the Polyp Pools, which is a kindred changeling land, you activate the angel mode. So Helena becomes really good removal. But it's not going to stick around. That Scorch says, no thank you. I would like to keep some things on the board. Having fetched that second swamp and not a mountain means you can't sequence multiple Scorches and Forked Pillars, so we'll see how that goes. Subdue costs 1 here because you do control a horror. Polyp Pools playing double duty here. Out of body experience is nice to see. All right, another War Driver comes out. Not going to be able to attack this turn. I'm not sure you need to use out of body experience. Yeah, okay. I got a feeling you probably want to keep that for some other things. Drew into a coronary war caller, so it's a 3/2 for 3. When it enters, if it was kicked, you can search for a rebel permanent card with mana value X and put it onto the battlefield, which is just going to get a Polyp Pools, which is kind of neat. This card was, in the format way before this existed. It just happens to be a fun sequence. Willing to use Subdue False Idols here, though, to get rid of the War Driver. So 2 of them are already... A lot of stuff being exiled. So Forked Pillar putting in some work. That's 2 damage, then 2 damage to the face, and then there's a Curse of Bleeding here, where it's going to make purple lose another 2 life and can no longer gain life, which is relevant. Scourge is going to put purple at 1, so depending on what the next draws are, could be some pretty good stuff. However, board-wise, we're slowly running out of things. Wonder if there's a world where you could have used out-of-body experience on your own war caller, get a 1/1 flyer, not take 2 damage to the face. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually a good thing. I think maybe you just want to keep that in for any other big threat, but looks like we're using Descent here on Chronicles of the Kitsune to get Huli, 4/4 flying lifelink. Not going to be able to gain the life, but so this is technically lethal. 3 damage, then 1 damage. And yeah, you don't want to risk running into a turn. So you Scorch the face, you put the player at 1, and then next turn, if you're still alive, which, 17 life is a lot to get through, Metal Munch finishes up the job. Disciple of Faradia is a pretty interesting card that got designed for MS3. It enters and tutors for an Angel or an Aura card. Reveal it, put into your hand, shuffle, and you gain life equal to the mana value. And then as long as you control the Angel, it gets +2/+2, has flying, and is an Angel in addition to its other types. So really good in the deck with things like Polyp Pools, actually. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're coalescing some Subdue False Idols. Getting some big bodies here. It costs 2 less as well from the yard. And there's, already some horrors. But we know there's a Metal Munch in hand, so that's just going to be it. Yeah, the Curse of Bleeding actually really relevant here. That lifelink would have made all the difference. And yeah, I'm assuming the curse was in the sideboard. But that's a neat counterplay here. Aha. Always put in game 2. So, yeah, that was a pretty solid game here. Just... Oh, yeah, and then Profane Emissary as well. Yeah, it was a good switch from, it's a pretty aggressive card to see Curse of Bleeding here. Alrighty, let's see if the players wrap anything else up before we add anything else. It was really nice to see some of these new cards. I'm happy to see Venerated Sanctity being tested out. Purple would be the player to do so. The exile is really a relevant part of it. Like the fact that even if you don't have a lot of faith counters on it, and you have the X white and you got mana to spare, you can get rid of some pretty big things. And I mean, it's a 1/2 flyer for 1. Like you could do worse than that. Pillars, yeah. It was not a mid-range shell. Yeah, the black-red is definitely more on the aggressive side. And yeah, actually, it's nice to see that cards like Metal Munch, Forked Pillar, Curse of Bleeding did a lot of work here. And yeah, the removal was doing it. So yeah, deck says deck can still be better. So maybe we're gonna see a updated deck list in the future. But yeah. Let's just see real quick. I think that should be it. All right, they're going to share the list. Yeah, I think at this point, I think that's it. That was a really clean match. So if you enjoyed it, hopefully you get a chance to check out some more content. We're going to be trying to put out a lot more stuff in the coming days and hopefully later today. I mean, I've got the time and I'm happy to do some more recording. So thanks again for checking in and have a good one.